What's up, Solar Warriors? Today is Tuesday, July 9th, 2024. My name is Jarrett McAllister, the virtual solar pro, and this is Tuesday Training. If you're watching this recording on YouTube, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with your fellow solarpreneurs, especially if they want to learn about adding solar to ADUs. I am alongside my co-host, Mr. Tom Cotter, and Mr. Jonathan Bernasso, who's down live at a real estate office in Rancho Cucamonga with some of the team. What's up, gentlemen? How is everybody? And how was your 4th of July weekend?
Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Jared, it was like a civil war here in Kansas City, like for a whole week. It was just mortars going off, windows shattering out of houses. So it was epic.
Love it. Yeah, it sounded like the Gaza Strip up here in North Idaho. It was pretty wild. And it's just starting to fizzle off now. But no, it was great to spend time with our families. I think most of us had like a 4-day vacation, you know, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We spent time on the lake. We built this huge deck in my backyard, brand new. Shout out to my neighbor, Chris, who's a GC and helped me with that project, getting that thing going. I could not have done it without him, but it's going to be awesome. Hot tubs getting delivered tomorrow. So yeah, life is good. What's up, Cynthia? I see you over there, Mr. Bernasso. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. Just hanging out at one of our real estate offices, just chilling in the conference room.
We're here with Jonathan Charles Wilson and Marisa Fletcher, Tier 3 mentors. Just coming live together to train a bit and maybe grab some food. So 4th of July was good though, just stayed local, safe, watched fireworks shows, you know, represent. That's it.
That's what's up. That's what's up. And Mr. Jonathan Charles Wilson, yeah, that man, he was on my podcast a few weeks ago. And if you haven't checked it out, definitely do that. Marisa, I think we're going to have to get you on to talk about real estate and solar here pretty soon. We'll have to line that one up. But speaking of recordings and trainings, last week we had Danny Pesci on, and it was fire at going over handling solar objections quick. If you did not get a chance to check it out, I just went ahead and dropped link to the recording in the chat right there. Make sure you do so. Share it with your team. It was an incredible training. Big shout out to Danny, who's also going to be one of our keynote speakers at Powur World in September, and which is a can't miss event. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that, but let's kick this thing off like we do every single week. And that's with some success stories. So I want to know, how many homeowners did you help go solar last week? We have a bunch of you guys who are on the leaderboard. So share some of your success, how you generated your leads, any objections you had to overcome, and then we'll get into our training. But don't be shy, raise your hand, come off mute. I will call on you. And as we are waiting for some people, I'll share some success. Personally, your boy over here got off the schneid and helped 4 homeowners go solar last week. Actually, it was 3. One of them had 2 projects. Those 2 projects specifically were in Idaho. Down in South Idaho, they're the first projects I've ever sold in the state that I live in, which is pretty wild. Everybody always hits me up. Jarrett, can you help me with this Idaho project? Never done one. This was great, great project. They have a huge house, huge shop in the back, how we do up here, and separate meters. We're doing 2 different systems. So that was awesome. And then helped out a couple other. Don Moy was one project down in Southern California, helping out. She had a referral from a real estate agent. That is the theme right there. We helped. That was a referral from a real estate agent. They had a quote from Sunrun, blasted it out of the sky. It was not even, there's no competition. He's getting his site survey done this week. And then another one for a gentleman named Portier out in Massachusetts, helped out a homeowner. They're getting an EV, cutting their bill in half. If you have not dipped into Massachusetts market, holy smokes, they're at 34 cents a kilowatt hour. Savings are fantastic. Highly recommend prospecting out there. But with that being said, anybody else, come on. I want to share the spotlight with some of you guys. Who else? Don't leave me hanging. Mr. Bobness, I'm looking at you, bud. I know you have some success. You're crushing it down in Home Depot. Why don't you share your little tip and trick and how you were generating so many leads down there?
Yeah, I had an idea that I actually brought from real estate back to your theme of giving away a gift card to people, whether or not they were buying. So it was basically, and I tried it at the doors too, and it actually worked really well. We said, we're just here to spread the word about solar and see if anybody's actually looked at it with a reputable company yet. And some people are like, oh, you know what? We did look at it, but the guy made me feel bad or whatever. I said, well, the promotion we're doing is we're giving away a $500 gift card. You don't have to buy anything. We simply want to take a look at your bill. Once we've gone through the numbers to see if this makes sense for you, whether you choose to move forward or solar or not, we're going to spin a wheel. You're one of 5 names on the wheel, and you could win a $500 gift card right away. And I actually had somebody who not only won the gift card, but then I gave them the option, if they wanted to become part of our marketing promotional team, to switch that gift card for $1,000 off their own home as a referral. And then they'd get an unlimited number of $1,000 referrals. And they went, oh my God. And they gave me the gift card back. So people are afraid, like, oh my God, I can't spend $500. Like, I didn't want to, but I would spend $500 for a sale every day of the week. And so it was pretty cool. It was really exciting. It was just something I thought about, like, why wasn't I doing this before? And at Home Depot, I did set 6 appointments in a 4-hour period, not like leads, but appointments. So I have 2 of them I'm sitting with in the next day or 2. I have 1 tonight. So my plan is to blow you guys all out of the water and build a home for a needy family in Mexico. That's the plan.
Love it. Love it. That is great advice, great tips. I love the marketing strategy. You guys are all CEOs of your own solar company. Invest into your business. Okay. And John, leading by example. Great job, Mr. Bobness. All right. Up next, Mr. David Steele, who also has a podcast. And if you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend it. What's up, David? How you doing, brother?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I'm actually shouting out for one of my fairly new team members, Robert Frost. Just awesome guy. He's already become tier 3, but about 2 weeks ago, he brought on his first enterprise, which was 2 other solar pros that were like very high up in management at ADT and another solar company. They've already brought on, I believe, 3 to 5 other solar people onto their team. So, and they know all of our installers already in their area in Ohio. So I'm super stoked to just see that happen and see that grow.
Great job, man. Love it. Leading from the front. It's always killer when you can get some ethical solar pros on the team who already know how to make it happen. And then once you plug them in, they see the light. They go, holy smokes, this is how Powur works. And they see the opportunity and the vision, and it's off to the races.
I might have to get you on my podcast when we go to Orlando, as long as you're okay with going out on a paddleboard.
100%.
Cool.
100%. Watch me do. Dude, have you ever done stand-up paddleboard and yoga? I have, in Costa Rica. Dude,
there you go. You'll be set.
Crushing it.
What drugs were you on?
You still got to echo. You might want to use Cynthia's mic on there. And then, hey, really quick, before we get to Jonathan, because I know you have your hand raised, I want to give a shout out to another team member, Mitch Hamilton. This boy is freaking crushing it. He's only been with the company just a little over a month, number 4 in the company on the leaderboard. He is an absolute stud. So huge shout out to you, Mitch, just crushing solar sales and the leaderboard. All right, Jonathan, you figure out your mic.
Yeah, we're good. I just wanted to share something as far as success stories go. Last month, I closed about 4 deals. And one of the things I learned, one of the major takeaways was that it's changed, right? Like the proposals, the referrals, it's definitely changed. It's different, especially if you're out there in California. And what that looks like for me is even my own referrals are getting 1 other quote, maybe 2. And so it's, how do you differentiate yourself? How do you explain batteries right now? How do you explain warranties? And how do you explain the installer with the best nationwide platform? How do you ask them, gracefully what else they're looking into, where their head's at, which options they want. And then it's a second follow-up for 30 minutes on a call or another Zoom with the husband or the wife. And then it's getting them to say yes. So that's my personal experience. And I was having this conversation yesterday. I just wanted to stress how important the follow-up is, the education is, differentiating yourself is, leaning into the nationwide company right now, more than ever, guys, even for some warm referrals. But clearly it's summertime, 4 deals pretty easily, and some more in the pipeline. So looking forward to it.
Great job, Jonathan. Always leading from the front. Jonathan has set himself up in a prime position, been with Powur for 5 years. I don't know, maybe 1,000 reps on the team. He does not need to sell, but he does sell. To stay current, knowing what's going on in the industry. Like you said, it has changed with batteries and new net metering agreements. You got to stay current. New Tesla Powerwall 3, what's best for the homeowner. And, we help each other out as a community over here. So great job, Jonathan. And then lastly, Mr. Tom Cotter, will end it with you.
I just want to give a shout out to one of my team members from Canada who recently signed up, doesn't have any solar experience, went through the tier 1 training, has asked a lot of questions, and I think in the last week and a half has like 5 or 6 leads that he's generated, being from Canada. And I was like, how are you generating these leads? Because I knew what we started with, but he's like, I just decided to run Facebook ads. I'm like, you just figured that out on your own? He's like, yeah, I just figured it out. I'm like,
that
dude,
might fix things.
Dude, good for you.
But that audio might not be.
That's incredible.
No,
that's awesome. What's his name?
But that audio.
His name is Laurent.
So
Laurent. Hey, well, great job, Laurent.
Yeah.
Taking it, into your own.
Give me a thumbs up now that you.
Jared, I had to mute you.
That's not coming from me.
Okay. Someone logged in with your logins then. We can keep going.
Okay, all good. And then one last one, Janine wanted to give a shout out in the chat to Mr. Charlie Sanchez. Congrats on becoming a tier 3 mentor and on the board, killing it at Home Depot. So great job, Charlie Sanchez. All right, let's go ahead and move on. We have a killer training for you today. Jonathan, where are you at, man?
Tom, did you have a quote today, or should we just move on? What do you want to do?
I got something just real quick. It's just 5 questions that I want everybody to copy and paste out of the chat and make a note to think about this going forward. So here's 5 questions that could change your business. First question is, what would I do if I wasn't afraid? Number 2, who can help me with this problem? Number 3, what if the opposite were more true? Number 4 is, what would this look like if it were more fun? And the last one is, if I could only work 15 hours a week on my solar business, what would I do? So I just want to leave those questions with you to think about as we are in the middle of summer. It's hot in most places, and the solar industry is cranking. So don't just work in your business, work on your business. These questions can help direct you to work on your business more.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom. Yeah, if you guys want to copy and paste those in the chat, everyone, those are pretty powerful questions. So I would try to reflect on that a little bit today or this week. All right, y'all, I have a few quick updates for you to share, and then we will get to the training. So let me go ahead and see if I can do this. Quick reminder, there's a website that I've created called thesolarmodel.com. It's generic. It's for everyone to use. It doesn't have any cookies or lead forms or anything like that, any call to action. It's just strictly generic. And what you'll find is thesolarmodel.com/2024. This is a really powerful 4-minute video of every update that we have. Compensation plan update, contest, thousands of dollars, Florida event coming up, Enfin product, like you name it. And this 4-minute video can be sent to any seller on your team to get them repumped. Any canceled seller in the last few years that canceled with us, Any inactive seller that's just gonna kind of quiet, I really think this 4-minute video is very, 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 very powerful to share with them and get them re-engaged right now. That Titan went out of business, other companies went out of business, Palmetto's not selling. It's crazy, guys. So my strategy is what's going to be called like a win back campaign. I'm going to send this video to everyone. On this website too, you'll also find Solar Model Explained, Inc. 5000, our brand new impact report. So it's just like 4 to 5 of the best resources to share with every single person that has ever looked into Powur or been with Powur, period. Moving on. If you looked at the Monday newsletter, there's a brand new coverage map in Knowledge Base. If you scroll down, you can literally select a state. So I'll select California, and it brings up an interactive map, and it even shows you the address. So if you're proposing to a customer and you're live on Zoom or in person, and you're able to bring up like, hey, let's look into Huntington Beach, Mr. Customer. Oh, look, there's thousands of these pins covering the entire state. Let's keep going into Huntington Beach, and you can see all of the homes we've helped in Huntington Beach. As a matter of fact, I think this is one of mine down here. Anyways, so I mean, this tool is really, I had fun looking in Claremont and Diamond Bar, but it's crazy, this tool that Jonathan Budden Marketing has created. So I needed to call that out. Someone put that in the chat because that's an incredible resource on Knowledge Base. And there's the link, actually. Maybe I'll do it for you guys. Powur.solar/install map. As always, check Powur Calendar, read your Monday newsletter, different events coming up. In the newsletter, you'll find that Jonathan Budd is mentioning NFIN. So there is NFIN, a brand new lender that has really aggressive dealer fees, probably the lowest. And they're a subsidiary of Hanwha QCell, so a great lending partner now in Powur Vision. Took a few extra days. And there's a office hours every second and fourth Tuesday, guys, at 11 a.m. So as soon as we're done today, you could hop over to learn more about NFIN. Building with Bobby, if you're looking to build your business and recruit, this Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific. And there's a few other more interesting things here. Like Jarrett said, Danny Pesci is going to be one of the main trainers at Powur World in Florida. And then the summer sales contest is insane. There's people making thousands and thousands of dollars extra right now. There's literally Joel Gossett making 10 grand extra, thousands of dollars extra. And you can, you know, these 30 of the top people are going to get to go to Mexico, all inclusive, paid trip, work hard, play hard. And then the number one person is also getting a $35,000 car bonus. So it's all on the table right now. And that's most of the updates that I wanted to share. This week, we'll be launching the new Powur Hitters brand. Stay tuned for more videos and branding coming on our Facebook page. And I am going to go ahead and stop sharing. And we're going to kick it over to Cynthia here, Cynthia Alvidrez, who I've had the pleasure and honor of knowing for over 14, 15 years now. We worked together many, many years at Solar City, Tesla, and Sunrun. I'm so proud of her and everything she's done. She's probably one of the top females in the entire solar industry, about 9 years now. The best customer service, the best back-end operations. And recently she's had success with ADUs. ADUs are important everywhere in the country, but especially California, because legally you have to have some solar on the property if you're going to build a detached ADU. And other states are following suit. And people can't afford to buy homes or have high interest rates, and they're going to be building ADUs. So it's more important than ever to know some of the nuances about solar and ADUs, especially in California. So Cynthia, who's next to me, because we're hanging out in Rancho Cucamonga, we are at a real estate office here with some of the team, John Wilson and Marisa Fletcher. And this real estate office is probably one of the top performing real estate offices in all of Powur. There's multiple agents in here, and the entire team has joined the Powur ecosystem, which is what you want to do. So with that, let's go ahead and Cynthia, if you want to turn your volume up and unmute and share your screen, we'll kick this off, guys.
All right, sounds good. Yep, let me go ahead and share my screen. Bear with me. That's my desktop. That's what my brain looks like. 1 second. Present. Okay, let me go ahead. I'm doing this off of Canva, so bear with me. Let me actually find your faces really quick. Admit this guy. Are you guys going to be admitting?
Got it.
Okay.
Tom,
Sorry,
sure.
guys. I want to bring your little faces back up, so I'm going to go back. There we go.
Yeah, we'll cover that.
Okay. New construction and ADUs. It's so funny. About a year ago, I remember saying, I really hate working on ADUs because they are so much work. They are very complicated. This is going to be a little bit of California focused as far as the law goes, but a lot of this is going to be relevant to most of the country. So if you're in another state, that's completely fine. I'm going to go through what information you need to gather up front in order to successfully plug in everything you need for your project manager, for our contract team, and how to just set yourself up for success. I will provide a couple things and tools that help me with ADU projects. But it's so funny, going back to what I was saying, is about a year ago, I was like, oh no, ADUs, you know, I was trying to like turn away some. And as luck would have it, most of my projects right now are ADUs. ADUs are really hot right now, you guys, especially in California. A lot of people that can't afford investment properties or a second property, they're building on their home for extra income. And so it's a huge market right now. I attended a construction meeting recently where they said ADUs are up about 35%, which is massive. So that's great for us. You would be surprised how many people in California, how many contractors don't yet know, because they don't stay up to date, that you need solar on these ADUs. So let's talk about that. We'll get right into it. Okay, so the law in 2018, the CEC ruled, and this says 2018 to 2023 because it passed in 2018, didn't really start to get enforced until 2023, until it was enforced for commercial as well. So the CEC ruled that all new construction in California has to supply enough solar to cover the usage of a brand new construction unit. The size of the unit is calculated based on the climate zone where the property is in and the square footage of the proposed unit. Now, you may be saying, wait a minute, for new builds, they're only putting 8 to 12 panels. That doesn't cover all of the electricity. Well, the thing is, and the problem is, that they are not solar representatives, right? They don't know how much electricity it takes to cover everything on a proposed unit. And there is no history of usage for these new construction homes. And so a lot of the contractors and the CEC, the California Energy Commission, they rely on this calculation. Now, we're not going to get super into how to calculate this, you guys, because I can take a whole class teaching you that. The good news is that you're not going to have to do that. Normally, contractors will have to look that up on their own. They'll have to have a full plan set before they even hand it off to you for the solar. And so they're already going to know what climate zone is this new construction in, how many square feet is this proposed unit, and how much solar and kilowatt sized does this solar need to be on the ADU. This is not relevant to every state. Not every state needs to have solar on new construction. I do believe Arizona implemented this next year and last year, and there is a few other states that are planning to implement this. But in California, it is heavily enforced now. And so there are some exceptions, you guys, to this. If the contractor can prove that there is severe shading, they can use approved shading tools on the CEC website to show that, hey, this ADU is going to be heavily shaded, so they can get an exemption for putting solar on it. The other thing is in San Diego County, for example, San Diego County, California, if the calculation for how much solar is needed is 1.8 kilowatts or less, you have an exemption. You don't need to put solar on that. And that's going to be for ADUs that are smaller than 620 square feet. But for the most part, most ADUs that are being built right now are about 750 square feet, 700 square feet and larger. So in most cases, you are going to need solar on it. This applies to detached units in California. This is not for expansions of the home. So a lot of people think if I convert my garage If I add a room on, if it's attached, you do not need to add solar. That is not a part of the law. So just a heads up on that, because I have heard some miscommunication on that. And so that is not correct. You do not need to add solar if you are just converting your garage into a living unit. It is only when it is brand new construction and it is detached from the home. All right, so this is some of the information that I gather up front when I have a lead that is having new construction or they have an ADU. First, basic information, right? Full name, email, cell phone. That's what you would get for every single lead. And I send this to them sometimes, or if I'm on the phone with them, I'll gather this information. Proposed building type, in most cases, I'm dealing with an ADU. The address of the new building unit. Getting the address up front, you guys, if you can, is really important, because if they do choose to do a PPA, a TPO product or a finance product, the lender is going to want the actual address that the ADU is going to be. Now, I will preface this by saying a lot of clients and homeowners or investors that are building these units, sometimes they don't have the final address at this point, especially if it's someone who's building in their backyard. They haven't yet applied for their half address or their unit B or whatever it might be. So you might need to do just the address of their main house to begin with. So you want to try to get that up front. And sometimes they don't know this, so I have to tell them like, hey, do you know what address your ADU is going to be? If they don't know, then that can trigger the start of them going to apply for that new address. You want to know the target start date of the actual construction if it has not started yet, and you want to know the target completion date. For most projects that I see, it's going to take about 6 months from start to finish. Most contractors are going to have multiple revisions. I've seen it take as little as 3 months. I haven't really seen new construction prior to permit submittal from the contractor. I haven't really seen take less than 3 months in my experience. But 6 months seems to be more common, because just like with solar, there are multiple revisions, right? Multiple revisions that happen with at the contractor level. So the nice thing about the contractor is they have access to so many tools to see what the requirements are in that AHJ where they're building. So they're going to know a lot of the regulations. They're going to be listed on the actual plans. I am going to show you a couple screenshots of that, but you want to know the target completion date. You want to have the contractor information. A lot of the questions that you're going to have, the homeowner might not know how to answer this if it's a homeowner, if it's their first ADU. So you want to have a direct line of communication with the actual contractor. So this is information I asked for up front. And you absolutely, this is so important, need to know if the unit will be sharing a meter with the main house if they're building on a property, or if it's a separate unit. This completely changes how you build the size of the solar system, because if you're sharing a meter with the main house, that means there's going to be one uniform bill. And you are trying to size the system for both units. You're trying to size it for the ADU and you're trying to size it for the main house. Now, if it's separate metered, which most people are going to do separate meters because they do eventually plan to use their ADU. A lot of these people are planning to use their ADU for rental purposes, right? So they want to be able to see what is the ADU using versus the main house. That is more expensive. So I have seen people change this mid-project. It is really, really important to let your homeowner, your client know that if anything changes in the project, they absolutely need to tell you, and emphasize that the change of the meter is really important. I try to suggest that they have, if they can do the same meter, if possible, if they're doing like a mother-in-law suite or a father-in-law suite where it's actual family, they don't necessarily need to meter the ADU separately. So, hey, why not do it on the same meter? Save money, and I can build them a bigger solar system that covers both, right? So I'm always trying to get that main house. But if they do separate meters, either way, you just need to know which is which. They might not know at this point, right? They're going to an engineer or contractor and they're just saying, hey, I want an ADU. They might not know how to answer some of this stuff. That's okay. That's why the contractor information is important, so that you can call them directly and talk to them. And then you also want to know if the city they're in, if the HJ they're in requires solar plans prior to starting construction. Not all cities require this. It's actually more rare now than common. There are a few cities that will say we need solar plans before the contractor can even build the ADU. If that is the case, we can put it through Powur. They don't prefer that, you guys. Powur prefers that the contractor starts the ADU, they build it, it's solar ready. You don't sign it up until the roof is done and inspected and the electrical is done and inspected. That is the ideal point to start your project. And there are a lot of GCs and contractors that on the first page of their plans, they can put on their deferred solar plans, meaning that the plans for solar are going to be separate from their building plans. And I have seen, even in a jurisdiction that typically requires solar plans, I've seen them approve that. So that is what you want. The reason you want that, the reason you want a solar ready ADU is because if you do it the opposite way, where you're doing solar plans for this contractor so he can submit at the same time, you're going to have multiple revisions and that's going to increase your cost. And so you want to try to avoid that if all possible. So you want to ask that question up front. Does your city require solar plans prior to the start of construction? And you can always look that up or call the HJ yourself. Electric bill. So if the house is on 1 meter, you can use the main house electric bill. You should be using the main house electric bill because it's going to be the same account number and the same meter number. Otherwise, you do not want to use it. If it's a separate meter, then you're putting in the project handoff notes. This is a brand new construction home. There is no utility bill yet. All right, so that's all the information you want to gather up front. Feel free to take a screenshot of that if you haven't already. And I wanted to show you on the plans a couple things to look for on page 1 that you can usually find on page 1 just to get a good idea of what adders you might need to do when you're building out your proposal. So if we look at the sheet index, usually plans will have a sheet index on page 1 where it will tell you the index, right? What are in the plans? Where is everything in the plans? You want to be looking for the site plan to see where is the ADU on the property in relation to the main house. You want to see the structural plan. You want to see the elevations of the roof, right? So you can see the pitch. You want to see the electrical notes. So this will all be on page 1 so that you can navigate these plans because you need the full plan set. All right, so that's what you're gathering when you have an ADU lead. You absolutely need the full PDF of the plan set, have them email it to you. It can't just be a screenshot. You need the full plan set. On the first page, this is where the contractor will put what is required by the climate zone and square footage calculation on the CEC website. So you can see here on this plans, it says per separate permit. This is on the contractor plan. So the contractor is telling the city, hey, these are my building plans, but separately, there's going to be a separate permit for something that's at least 2 kilowatt sized array. Right? And that is what is required per Title 24. Title 24 is the law that mandates what energy sizes these solar systems need to be. Same thing, they have mandates for like roofing material and things like that. You also want to take a look at the project scope. Take a look at everything that is being done. That's what project scope means. So you can see here the project scope. On this one, they're going to construct a 749 square foot detached ADU with 22 square feet covered front porch to match the art. And it's going to be the same style as the existing residence. And down here, when you don't have a utility bill yet, you can see the utilities. Who is the utility in this area? Fontana Water Company, SoCal Gas, SoCal Edison. So a lot of times if you're dealing with a new construction home and you don't know who the utility is, you can easily see who it is right here so that you can build your proposal. So all of this typically will be on page 1 of the plans. And then this is what info you want to gather from the plans. You want to look at the electrical notes. So if you look at the electrical keynotes here, it says what's going to be on that ADU. So in this case, it says location of 100 amp sub panels. So we can see that this ADU is going to have a 100 amp sub panel. And so I always like to see what kind of panel am I dealing with? Are they tying into the main? Are they doing a 200 amp? I've seen ADUs with 400 amps. And so you just want to know ahead of time so that you can notate that in your project handoff notes. And you want to know the roof type and the roof pitch. I had one homeowner that changed mid-project to a clay roof. So we had to change everything, right? Again, very important to set expectations, communicate with your homeowner. Why it's important to keep everything the same, because it could cause everyone to have to revise their permits, right? But you normally will have the elevation here. So you can see when you're leaving notes for your designer to create your vision proposal, you can see what the pitch of the roof is going to be. You can see the roof type. You can see where vents are to be allocated. So you can really get a good idea of where the obstructions and everything's going to be in order for you to create a proposal to price for the customer. All right, so now entering the lead. When you're entering the lead under site info, under mounting preference, you will see where it says other construction details. When you're entering an ADU lead, you want to click on the other non-solar construction in progress, and you want to upload the full plan set underneath. Has anyone used this feature yet? Or is this the first time? A lot of people, when I point this out, don't even know that that's in the site info tab. So it's a new feature because they absolutely need the plan set to give you a good design. And you do want to have a design ready for when you meet with the client, because otherwise the panels are just on the main house or they're floating in the air, right? So you do want to make sure that you have a nice, clean design when you're presenting. You want to put the estimated completion date. That's why you're gathering the target date at the very start of the project. And for the design team, just to go an extra step, I like to take a look at the plans, and I like to look at the site map on the plans, and I like to show them where the ADU is going to be, so they can put the appropriate mounting planes on there so that they can get the pitch right. So we have the production down. This is especially important, you guys, if you're going to be pitching a TPO product, right? Because our production needs to be as close as possible. In my experience, most clients for ADUs, they are trying to go with the cash product. But otherwise, you know, if you're trying to do a TPO product, then you definitely want to get the shading correct and you want to get the production correct. So I always do this for the design team, and I'll leave proposal notes. This is a new construction ADU. Please see assets for this screenshot. North and south facing mounting planes, MPS. Ignore vents, we can redirect vents. That's something I do just to maximize the south sides. And if I need to coach the contractor through moving vents, that is something that is so possible at this stage in the project. All right, so this is what I leave for the project manager in regards to handoff notes, different from proposal notes for your designer. So feel free to screenshot this, take this down. At the very top, this is a new construction project. I will show you what this looks like filled out, but I just wanted you to capture this template. Is this site survey ready? Okay. The reason that this is really important to let people know is because a lot of ADUs you might be putting in are not site survey ready. The roof is not done, the electrical's not done, but you're putting it in because you need solar plans because that AHJ requires it. So you have to let the project manager know it's not site survey ready yet. We need solar plans. Electric bill. This is where I would enter whether they have a bill or not, whether it's the main bill or not. Meter, is it shared or is it combined? Has the construction started yet? Are the roof and electrical completed and inspected? And who is doing the solar plans, permits, and inspection? Very rarely you will have a contractor who is hosting the inspection and they are actually taking the solar specs and putting it into a combined plan set. There are a couple jurisdictions that require that. And so if that's the case, they're going to be the ones acquiring the solar permit along with their building permit. They're also going to be the ones hosting inspection. And at that point, we're just the hammer. We come in, we install it, they inspect it. So that's important to notate here. Who is doing all of that so that the project manager knows. So this is an example of what it looks like filled out. Is it site survey ready? Yes. Electric bill, there is no electric bill yet. Meter, ADU will be on its own meter and have its own billing. Has construction started? Yes. And then here, roof and electrical complete and inspected, completed, and inspection is on 7/1, right? So just really, really detailed notes. The more notes, the better. I've even had to still stop a site survey after I enter this because sometimes our welcome team is very quick and our contract review team moves to site survey pretty quick. So you want to make sure that they get these notes as soon as possible. And this is what a design will look like when you put in the appropriate notes. They'll have the correct size ADU, they'll have the right pitch on it, the right production, and you can really see how many panels are going to fit. I cannot tell you how many times I've met with the homeowner and they're like, I think I can fit this many panels. And I'm like, no, we did the design, we did the measurements, I triple checked them, so I know we could only fit this many, right? So in my experience, you'll see that this one says 7, but I really do try to hit a minimum of 8 panels just to justify cost and commission and to justify the project. ADUs are a lot of work, you guys, and they're very small margins. Let's just be honest. And so you want to try, if you can fit at least 8 panels on there, even though that might be higher than what the ADU requires. We know that the climate calculations on the CEC are not going to cover everything for that ADU. So you want to try to get as many panels as you can on there. And very common adders here, permit revisions. If you are dealing with a jurisdiction that requires solar plans prior to the contractor building, you're probably going to have a few revisions. And so you want to buffer a little bit of money for that. And the project's probably going to span longer than 6 months and you're just going to be waiting. And so you do want to make sure that the margin is appropriate for that. Please, with ADUs, you have to set the expectation with clients. This is a major construction project. They're going to be very used to this though, because they're dealing with a lot with their contractor, a lot of back and forth, a lot of surprise cost. So you do want to let them know that, hey, solar is a lot more clean cut. And more straight to the point, but things do come up, right? If your city requires something of us, that may change. These projects span over 6 months. Regulations change over that time. So communicating that and setting the proper expectations will definitely save you. Trenching is very common when it comes to ADUs. However, usually the contractor is dealing with that because they're running electrical already from the main house to the ADU. So just let him know that if you guys are sharing a meter, that you guys might need, that the contractor leave room for the solar wiring from the main house to the ADU. And they're always happy to do it. And that way you get away from adding extra adders onto the solar proposal. This has never been a problem with every contractor. So just communicate with your contractor and let them know. But there's not a ton of adders that go into ADUs. If anyone can think of any, feel free to drop them in the chat. But that is pretty much it. Let me see if I have anything else here. That is pretty much all I have today. Let me see, we're at 10:47. So I'll open it up for any questions. Those are just a few things that help me get started. In regards to what products to pick, I know that that might be a question. Like I said, most people choose cash for these just on my client base, but you can do any. Gets very questionable with the tax credits, you guys, depending on what kind of homeowner you're working with. Because remember, the federal tax credit is supposed to be for homeowners, not necessarily investors or companies. So you really just want to be very, very careful in talking about the tax credit and making sure that you have them consult with their CPA always. Don't try to give tax advice on the tax credit on this.
All right, thank you,
Great
Cynthia.
job.
I'm gonna go through the chat here, guys, and look at a few questions. I did put the How to ADU website, Title 24, and even the PDF handbook as well. So if you wanted to grab that, take a look. Someone did ask a garage conversion, a detached garage conversion, not new construction. Kevin said does not require solar, and I think Tracy's also correct. Conversion and a garage detached, not new, not adding a second story, likely won't require solar. Does that
Correct.
sound about right? Okay, great. So a conversion may not, but My brother and I actually want to add an ADU on top of our garages. So that would be new construction
Mhm.
and that would require it. Someone else asked, can the house meter and the ADU meter, so he's saying there's 2 meters. Most of my ADUs, guys, have been just 1 meter on the whole property, but if there's 2 meters, can you do an aggregate, net metering aggregate, or does it depend on the utility or this AHJ?
It does depend on the utility and the AHJ. So there is a umbrella governing law of California. And then there are smaller umbrellas, city and county jurisdiction. And so it's really case by case, you guys. And that's why, don't try to be the contractor. Don't try to learn all the construction laws. Just make sure that when you get plans, your contractor is going to know what is required. The requirements will be listed on the plans once they pull the plan set for that area. And so you'll be able to see really clearly what is required. And keep in mind that they're going to be submitting these plans typically prior to meeting with you. That's when they usually get the hint that, oh, I need to get the solar part started. And so they'll be able to tell you if they can do aggregate metering in that area.
We'll do 2 more here and then go to John, Bill, Jarrett. So Michael asked, if the homeowner currently has solar on the main home and it's grandfathered NEM 2, but he needs to add solar on the ADU, assuming the homeowner will stay on NEM 2.0 on the home, but the ADU will have NEM 3.0. My answer on that is, usually solar on the property satisfies the requirement of legally having solar, but it depends if it's 1 meter or 2 meter, and it could depend on the city. My guess is if there's solar on the property, likely that's going to satisfy this requirement. But hey, there's probably that 1 in 20 where that city still wants to see some solar on the
Yeah.
ADU.
I usually see the opposite. Sorry to contradict you. I usually see the majority of cities are still going to require it on new construction, period, even if the main house has it. That is more common in my experience than that way.
Yeah. And then what TPO, lease PPA products work with ADUs? Most of them should.
I mean, yeah, most of them should. It's the same thing as a main house. You guys are just choosing different financing, whatever works best for the client, right?
Quick question.
Yes.
So what happens if the contractor comes to you and says, hey, we're required to get solar. It's a separately metered ADU.
Mhm.
So it's going to be NEM 3, but they're not familiar with battery requirements. How do you explain that to a contractor?
Oh, yes. I'm so glad John Wilson brought up battery requirements. So right now we're in a really tricky spot, you guys, because when they did this ADU law, keep in mind that these homeowners are spending so much money to build these ADUs. All of them are like up to here, the ones I'm talking to, because so much money is going into this new construction. So some of them do come in a little irritated that they have to also expense solar, especially if their contractor didn't tell them that. And what makes matters worse is in California, right? They really should have a battery in order for that ADU to work correctly. In my experience, most people are so overwhelmed by the expense that they're spending on the ADUs, they're willing to forego the battery and just get a small system in order to breeze by the law. You have to cover CYA, do a CYA email them and say like, hey, I just want to make sure you understand that I am recommending the battery for this unit. You will not be able to store your solar power. Any excess power gets sent to your utility at about this rate, right? Do you understand like you are still choosing not to get a battery for this unit? Just cover your behind, please, and make sure that you are getting a CYA email, getting it in writing. I have had a lot of homeowners just choose to get the bare minimum, even without batteries, regardless of it changing their NEM, regardless of the fact that they know that any excess power is not going to be stored or credited properly.
Right. Yeah, I think it definitely depends on the goals of the homeowner, having that conversation. And the 2 or 3 ADUs I've done, they're detached. There's 1 meter on the property, and those cities were okay with just solar on the main home. And those homeowners were thinking more like, how do I eliminate the Edison bill for my whole property moving forward? But every homeowner's goals are different. Every city is different.
Yeah.
So
And
you
that
have
makes
to know
sense for
that.
you, Jonathan, because it was 1 meter. But usually,
2
because
meters
it's,
has
yeah,
to be on the
yeah,
ADU.
usually 2 meters, they're gonna want, it's 2 separate systems, 2 different buildings.
Right. All right, John Bobness.
Real quick, calling it a CYA email. I like how technical that was. It
That
made
is
me
what-
laugh.
Is
I was like,
his
that's
volume up?
perfect. Can you hear me okay?
John?
I can hear you just fine.
John?
No?
I can hear him just
We
fine.
can hear you.
I can hear you, John.
Yeah, all right. Well, if John Bernasso can't hear me,
Yep.
that's okay.
Oh, yeah.
I can hear
Go
you.
go ahead.
All right,
Oh,
brother.
yeah. Cynthia does
Well,
need
maybe
to get
somebody can
You guys
relay
hear
this
me?
for me then.
No, that, oh no, it's not. Mute yours, Cynthia.
Mute mine.
Oh, that's here. That's here.
Oh, it was me. User error.
Wow, no worries. All right, cool. Real quick. So I have a homeowner, has a new ADU going in, 1 meter on the property, and wants to maximize system size. It's a area where there's limitations on sizing of the systems. So it's not, it's kind of more like an Edison where you have 150% cap. They had an old lady living in there in the past. Now they bought the house and it's going to be, they just want to get as much power as they can out of this thing. So they want to cover the house consumption. They also want to cover the ADU consumption. Will I be able to factor in and make up something that gets them maximum power? Or are they going to be stuck with the same last years of consumption from this 89-year-old lady who was basically running fans and never turned her AC on?
Okay, so there is a main house and now an ADU that's going in. Is that correct?
That's
What you-
correct. ADU will be on the same meter.
Yeah, well, you're
Yeah.
looking, oh, I see. It'll be on the same meter, but you also need to take into account the added square footage. So you actually
Right.
have higher allowance. That's A. And then what utility is this?
It's in Burbank.
Burbank is Glendale Water and Power, correct?
Well, it's Burbank Water and Power, but it's
Burbank Water and Power. They have a
Yeah.
100% cap.
yeah, it's 104 or 102 or something like
I'm
that.
pretty
It's
sure Burbank has a justification form. So as
Okay.
long as you are showing that the new homeowners, right, they might ask for some receipts, but intend to install electrical appliances, get an electric vehicle in the future. I would look for that form. I'm pretty sure that they have it, not certain, but that is usually a way to get around that.
Okay, question 2 is I have a separate one where same thing, 1 meter. They want to put just the minimum amount of solar necessary to
Mhm.
meet the needs and it's an LADWP. So they want the minimum that will meet the needs of just the ADU, even though it's going to be on the main home because it's one shared meter. Yeah.
I mean,
What's
just
the-
tag me on that one. I'll help you sell it.
Oh, no,
I'm
I
kidding.
appreciate that, Cynthia.
I'm
Thank
just
you.
kidding. Hey, no, look, for that one, I would say they're just swapping, right? LADWP has great net metering. You definitely
Sure.
don't need battery there quite yet. And so I would just try to have a conversation with them, say, yeah, hey, I could totally do that, but it's just gonna really do almost nothing, right, for your billing. And the right thing to do would be to take all of that electricity, cover it with solar, and you will pay less, right, than you would be paying LADWP. And we could probably cover your main house and ADU for around the same price as you were paying LADWP. So I would just try to push back on that a little bit.
One thing I like to say there, John, is, hey, our minimum is normally 7 or 8, but what I find is 10 is the same price because a
I
4
gotcha.
kilowatt system, there's a discount. If it's under 4 kilowatts, a little bit more. So yes, it's 7 or 8,
Smart.
but I'm going to hook you up with 10 because that's where we get you a little better deal.
I'll just tag you and Cynthia and not make any commission just because I love you both. Thank you guys. Seriously, I do appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks, Bobness.
That's the way to go. Hey, Cynthia, thank you very much. Outstanding work. I missed part of it. I got dropped the Zoom. So, and I think Jonathan addressed it sort of in his comments just before John Bobness spoke. That is the single meter ADU situation with a home that does not have solar. And my experience has been to basically talk to the homeowner and saying, hey, you can do it just on your house and get that. We'll go a little extra, help the house bill a little bit, satisfy the ADU requirement, no additional trenching or anything. But I don't know if you address that specifically as a a talk track when dealing with somebody who's doing an ADU, when they think in their mind, oh, I have to get solar on the unit itself on a single meter solution.
Yeah, single meter, I mean, you're doing the main house, right? Single meter is you're covering main house and ADU, but yeah, thanks for emphasizing that. We should always be trying to increase that size, put it on a finance, put it on a TPO product. This was more like logistics of ADU, but yes, definitely I agree with Bill. You should be trying to convert that to a full system. Keep in mind though, that I have won a lot of projects over other companies who are trying to do that to my clients because they are spending a lot of money already on their project. And so be open-minded to really just serve the client and just, let them know, hey, I could do both, right? And this is why it makes sense to do it on 1 meter, but ultimately it's up to you. So yeah, I would say always try to go for it, but hey, if they just want to spend the minimum, you might need to bite the bullet and do that. You'll get referrals off of it. And like me, you'll end up with 90% of your pipeline in ADUs.
There you go, which you don't want, but my theory is that you don't try to sell them on the whole house option with a home. You just get enough and say that, the excess you'll use up at the house and get full value for. You don't have to have the battery discussion or anything because it'll all be used and it'll all be accounted for and you won't have any pushback.
Yeah, great. Love that. Thanks for sharing.
Great job, Cynthia. Absolutely fantastic. High level conversation that is much needed in the community. As we all know, ADUs, I mean, they're not going anywhere. Everybody is trying to make a little extra cash, right? And cash flow, and adding an ADU is one of those ways to do so. And with it being required here, thank you so much for training. I just do want to reiterate, what you guys are all saying and, clarify for everyone is that if they're building an ADU in the back and there's not going to be a separate meter, you can satisfy the ADU requirements by putting solar on the main house. So that is, and what's great about that, you guys, is that it fast tracks the project, right? You're not really waiting for, the construction of the ADU because this is going to go ahead and satisfy it and you can get this done right away. So Cynthia, thank you so much. Any other questions? If not, drop some love for Miss Cynthia in the chat. I cannot see the chat. My chat disappeared, but
one last thing I wanted to say is that batteries, because a couple people asked in the chat, I just want to clarify, batteries are not required for the law, but if you do add a battery on, it can reduce the amount of solar that's required for that ADU. That would really the amount required are so low, you guys, that doesn't really help you, but it might help on a very large ADU.
Got it. All right. Any last questions for Cynthia? Okay. Well, if not, thank you so much. That was freaking rad. You are a rock star. We are so blessed to have you. And yeah, no, seriously, what an amazing training. This, the recording of this training will get uploaded to my YouTube channel later, Jonathan's YouTube channel later. Jonathan, do you have any departing words you'd like to say before we get out of here? I don't think they can hear us. There you go.
We're good. Cynthia crushed it as always. The level of her detail, those question intake forms, guys, it always impresses me because I don't do all of that stuff. So it's very detailed, very thorough. I always learn something. The NFIN training is starting right now. That's a very, very important training on the new mortgage lender. If you want to hop over to that, go to Powur Calendar. And again, the 2 resources I shared above, thesolarmodel.com/2024. Use that resource, watch that video, share it with people. Let's get them reactivated, re-engaged. And then of course the badass install map. So epic updates every week, like always from Powur. And like Charles says, the best is ahead. Thank you, Jarrett. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, you guys have a great week and we'll see you over on the NFIN training.
Have a good week.
See ya.